Good morning. I'm going to continue reading the story called It Was Dusk, which is based on several true stories. I'll start where we left off yesterday. In the summer, they would stay a week or two visiting. They would fish and shuck freshly picked corn and shell peas Aunt Mattie grew in her front yard. His parents always said, "The boy needs a taste of country living growing up." Now he was on a stay of several months, helping his aunt recover from a broken hip. Mattie Harris was Oliver's mother's sister. Never married, she had lived in the same house for over 50 years. Now that she was disabled, she had had the back porch enclosed and converted into a bedroom for herself. 45 years working at the TVA had gotten her a decent retirement fund. She had made many friends over the years, and many enemies, too. Sandville was a small town. The Harris family were florists. During high school, Oliver helped make floral arrangements. When he turned 16, he began to drive the delivery truck all around the suburbs and churches and funeral homes of Atlanta. Every once in a while, he even got to deliver to a synagogue or some of the hand-clapping country black churches. After college and an MBA, Oliver had taken the path of least resistance and stayed in the family business. He did all their computer work. He sent out and received all the orders via computer. He kept the computers running smoothly. So when Matilda Harris broke her hip and needed someone to come stay with her, Oliver was the obvious choice. He could take his computer and set up at her house a couple of 100 miles away from the family's stores and work as if he hadn't gone anywhere at all. Oliver slept in one of the 3 upstairs bedrooms. Another of them he had fashioned into a makeshift office for himself. Tonight, the front gate to the cottage was open. Oliver walked slowly and quietly through it. All of a sudden, the door opened a crack, letting out a flash of black and white. It was the little mop dog. She barked furiously. Then she stopped, sniffed Oliver's leg, looked him up and down, and just stood wagging her tail. Oliver let out his breath, relieved that his pant leg had not been shredded by those sharp little teeth. Very tentatively, Oliver proceeded towards the front steps. The dog walked in back of him, occasionally nosing his calf as if to propel him along. One by one, he stepped up, looking sidewise at the dog. The cat was in her little house, looking out of her doorway at Oliver. Then, noticing the dog, she jumped at the wispy, waggling tail, but a quick turn and a growl made the cat beat a hasty retreat. Oliver saw the doorbell, but he decided to knock gently instead. Sarah saw a shadow on the door glass and was surprised at the absence of barking. She opened the door crack and quickly took in a man holding a bunch of flowers and her dog sitting at his feet, wagging her tail. Sarah was puzzled, but trusting the dog's judgment of character, stuck her head out of the door. "Yes, can I help you?" she asked. Oliver bit his upper lip for a moment, and then, looking at the flowers, he said, "These are for you." "What?" Sarah replied. Then she craned her head around to see the driveway. There were no cars but her own, so she asked, "Are you a delivery person or something? Is there a card that says who they're from?" "They're from me to you," Oliver said plainly and simply, and he stretched out his arm to hand them to her. Sarah noticed that there were daylilies and hydrangeas. She looked for the sap to be leaking out. Knowing exactly what she was looking for, Oliver said, "Don't worry, I flamed the stems so they wouldn't be runny." "I'm surprised a man would know that," Sarah said. "Well," explained Oliver, "my family is in the florist business." Sarah was about to observe that these were wildflowers when Tula the cat ran into the house. "Oh no, darn, Spotsy, come here and get Tula." Sarah left the door with Oliver standing there and pointed for the little dog to come stand by the couch. The cat peeked out, saw that fluffy tail waving so invitingly, and got ready to make a jump for it. Just then, Sarah grabbed the cat and tossed her outside. She grabbed Oliver's arm and said, "Come in, quickly." Then, realizing that she had pulled this complete stranger into her house and shut the door behind him, she said, "Oh my." Oliver said, "I'm harmless, really. I live with my Aunt Mattie Harris just over there." "That's you?" said Sarah, surprised. "Well, in that case, you qualify as a neighbor. Would you like to sit down and have something to drink?" Sarah indicated the long wooden kitchen table. "The flowers would probably do well with a drink, too," suggested Oliver. "Oh, gosh, yes, sorry." And Sarah found a handy vase, filled it with water, and quickly placed the bouquet in. They didn't need arranging. They were perfectly arranged when Oliver handed them to her. "Would you like some water? It's filtered." "Sure," said Oliver. "Sounds great." Sarah settled into an unusual large wooden chair constructed of tree limbs. Then she said, "Now explain this to me, please. You say these flowers are for me? Who are they from?" Oliver said, "I picked them for you on my walk tonight." He took a small lighter from his pocket and lit it, came prepared to flame the ends, too. "Now look," said Sarah, "this is all very nice and all, but I don't even know you, and I know your aunt well enough to know she didn't send you over here with flowers for me." "Oh," said Oliver, "sorry about that. I was hoping maybe you didn't know her that well." "Well, no offense, but there are certain people on the road here who have made their opinions of me fairly clear. I imagine she told you. I'm divorced. Some Catholics think it's a sin, but it isn't. Not in my case anyway. I'm also annulled," Sarah explained. "I'm really sorry. I didn't come here to pry into your life," Oliver apologized. "Oh, you're not prying. I'm just telling you what's common knowledge around here, or ought to be. Honestly, I'd move, but I just can't afford to." Oliver asked, "Is it that bad? I mean, the people?" "Well, it's a small town, and the people on this road, like your aunt, have lived here forever. I'm the suspicious newcomer. A few years after we moved here, I divorced my husband, and that was the end of neighborliness where I was concerned, in their minds at least. I am sorry. I know my aunt can be mean and catty. She used to scare me silly with that look of hers when I was a kid. And since she broke her hip, her neighbor friends have been keeping her informed of the local gossip, possibly inventing it too," Oliver explained. "And I am part of the local gossip," Sarah said. "But I don't really care what they think. It's their problem, not mine." Oliver looked surprised. He asked, "You mean it doesn't get you down?" I'll admit it gets lonely sometimes. I mean, being at home, working at home, and knowing that the people who live in closest proximity see me as a pariah. But everyone has their ups and downs. When the sun shines, I do fine. If it's cloudy or rainy, sometimes it's a struggle. You're a very interesting person, said Oliver. Sarah was taken aback. She told Oliver, well, for all the time you've known me, that's a very interesting comment. Actually, said Oliver, a little sheepishly, I've sort of known you longer than you think. Sarah looked scared and began to get up. She started to say, gee, Mr. Harris, is it Harris like your aunt? Thank you for the flowers. But Oliver cut her off. I'm so sorry, he said. That was a stupid thing to say. I've obviously alarmed you. Please, I meant no harm. Well, just the same, Sarah said. Why don't we sit on the front porch? Oliver looked crestfallen. He hung his head and, looking down at his shoes, said, well, I don't want my aunt to know I'm here. Spotsy walked over to Oliver and put her front paws on his knee. He patted his leg and she jumped up into his lap. He began to scratch her and pet her to her obvious delight. You know, said Sarah, that dog usually doesn't like men very much. It's funny. Women can come by and she's usually fine. Priests can come by. If they're wearing pants, she barks. If they have habits on, she doesn't. But I can't understand why she barked at you when I let her out. And then she stopped. Oliver smiled, still petting the dog, and explained, that's because she sees me every night and I talk to her. You see, I go walking for exercise every night and I pass by your house. Lost 30 pounds in 3 months doing it. Whoa, 30 pounds! Wouldn't I love that? Then Sarah stopped and thought. You're that chubby guy, she said. Well, used to be. That's me. I remember when you first came. I noticed because she barks at anyone going by outside, said Sarah, indicating Spotsy. But after a while, I guess I just got used to the routine and stopped noticing. Oliver looked at Sarah as she spoke. She herself was plump, but he knew that weight didn't determine a person's worth. He had experienced that in his own life. He had been judged by his appearance and by his job in a florist shop, and he had learned to look past appearances over his 40 years. Sarah looked at Oliver, too. She hadn't had a friendly talk with a man in a long time. It felt nice. And this was just friendly, too. Nothing behind it. Then she remembered what he had said. What did you mean when you said you knew me better than I thought? That's very strange sounding. Sarah was on her guard. Oliver sighed. I've got to be honest with you. I have walked this road 100 consecutive nights. Tonight is the 101st. And from about the second week on, as my walks got longer and the days got shorter, lights began to be turned on in the houses. One day, I stumbled on the road out there and dropped my counter. He stopped to show Sarah the little metal clicking counter. I click it once for every street light I pass to sort of keep count, you know? Sarah nodded. So that night I happened to look up and I saw you on the couch. You were crying. Or maybe you had a cold. Except that almost every other night I've walked by, you've had that same cold. For 3 straight months. Oliver bit his lip and looked at Sarah to see how she was taking this. She sat calmly, hands in her lap, listening. I thought about why you might be crying. I figured maybe you liked sad movies or love stories or something, chick flicks. This brought a smile from Sarah and a slight blush. But I couldn't imagine there being so many on the TV every night. Then I thought, maybe you have a lot of videos or something. I just kind of got, curious. So one day, when I saw you wiping your eyes, I walked around to the back door. Sarah was becoming alarmed again. Thoughts began to race through her mind. Is he a peeping Tom, a Boston Strangler, a pervert? But Oliver kept talking, and what he said got Sarah's attention. I'm going to stop here for today, and I will read some more later or tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying it. If you are, please comment so I'll know that somebody is actually listening. And I hope you're enjoying my reading of It Was Dusk. Have a good day. God bless you.